Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas!
Mike Osman has been at the top for over 40 years. He's a very gifted performer and moves with the times with material and his talent. I'd enjoy seeing Mike so many times on television in the 80s and the 90s. He's one of the greatest impressionists you could see. These days, you can see him as Donald Trump, one of the finest. Today we talk about Jeffro, Chris Tarrant, Tommy Cooper, Hillary O'Neill, copycats, Aidan J. Harvey. We even talk about being from the same neck of the woods. We talk about football, believe it or not. We talk about the Falklands Foundation, Frank Bruno, Dirty Den, Only Fools and Horses, Bradley Walsh, and again, Donald Trump. So welcome to Eyes and Tinsel, 12 days of podcasts. Enjoy. Mike Osman. Eyes and Teeth. Hello, Mike Osman.
Hi, Steve. How you doing?
Very good, thank you. Very good. I got to be careful not to say Osmond because I've been working with the Osmonds recently. So, but you're Osmond, no D.
Wow, I'm a big fan of the Osmonds. I'm that age and that era. Crazy Horses is my favourite song, and I did have a bit of a crush on Marie Osmond. Yeah. My wife's looking at me; she didn't know that.
Well, you could have said Donny.
Basie Rollers, so it's
yeah.
And David Essex.
David Essex, yeah.
Boy.
And you could have said Donny, so she would have been more worried. Probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't believe you're working with the Osmonds. How about that? Which ones?
Jay, who was the original drummer of the Osmonds,
yeah.
And Jimmy Osmond, who was a mastermind of producing tours and shows and director of great variety shows and things.
But he was the long-haired lover from Liverpool. He was the kid. He was the young boy when we were sort of watching the Osmonds.
Bless him. Yeah,
he's the one with all the entrepreneurial skills and spirit, isn't he?
It's incredible. I got to learn so much working with Jimmy for 2 Christmases in Branson in Missouri, and he bought Andy Williams' from Andy Williams. He bought the Moon River Theatre in Branson.
Wow.
So blessed to work there for 2 seasons. But he was the mastermind on a lot of the tours.
Christmas show that I've seen pictures of on Facebook, or is this because is there one in Suffolk?
Right. Yeah, these are 2 different shows. So Jimmy produced the Andy Williams Christmas Extravaganza. I do like to do Christmas extravaganzas, and so this one was in Thursford in Norfolk, which is independent, and that's a one-off show, which is a mind-blowing show and does great business. This is the first year it's been cancelled, so 1,400 seats twice a day for 7 weeks. And as the host, you don't get a day off, so you work from rehearsals straight up until closing night.
It's wonderful. I saw pictures on Facebook, and I think it made me go and look at some videos, and I was blown away by it.
Oh, mate.
You're a very talented man.
Thank you. I just do what I play with dolls. No. Well, one day, it'll be lovely.
I remember saying to you, I remember being so impressed by what you did, and I can remember having a chat with you about it, and how well you did and how well you were going to do, and you have, mate, so well done.
Oh, bless you, thank you. You know, that was the first confidence boost I had doing that show with you, you know, and you did give me some really nice advice. I really appreciate it. And
wow, my pleasure, mate.
I mean, it's incredible what we do as a job, and I've been watching a lot of what you've been doing recently, and hosting auctions and just doing your act, whether it's impressions, stand-up. It's what we do, isn't it? It's entertaining.
Well,
but
we're having to adapt at the moment. That's the thing, isn't it? With these strange times. So there's a lot of social media, virtual stuff that we're all doing, whether it be Zoom or on different platforms. And I've quite enjoyed having to try and come up with something to keep earning a living, because we are the forgotten 3 million, sadly, and you know, there are so many great comedians, singers, musicians right across our industry who will be really struggling and who will be having to look elsewhere. You know, I'm quite fortunate at the moment that we've managed to survive it.
Yeah.
But you can't go on forever with nothing.
No, of course not.
You know, developing ideas, Q&As with different people that I do, which I'm sure you'll mention in a minute, you know, companies, all sorts of things. And it's worked out really well. And the big Donald Trump impression has served me well for the last 4 years.
God, I can imagine. And probably for the next 4 years. We're not to know yet, are we?
Well, that's the thing about it. Donald Trump is the most famous man on the planet. And he still believes that he hasn't lost. Actually, you
Yes.
and I both know. There's still, I don't know how many lawsuits he's got out there, but he still believes that he's going to get back. And when you see people like Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, saying that it'll be a Trump administration.
I know.
On January the 20th, I think it was. You wonder what is going on. Listen, I have no idea.
No.
I don't have a crystal ball. It doesn't matter to me whether Trump's the president, or he'll always be the president, of course, because they're always called Mr. President.
Yes.
That matters to me because, as I said, Trump's fame will continue and he will still, upset everyone and give me comedy gold, as we say. He is the gift that keeps on giving.
I know he's given you, hasn't he? And but then this is a time, isn't it? Whatever's going on there and what's going on here all around the world, it's a time for creative entrepreneurs to actually create. And you're right. And doing what you do, we got to survive and do what we do online, which is which is very important, really, to keep our names out there. I think to keep doing things.
I think it's
not
about
disappear.
Profile, but I think it's also about you feeling like you're working, feeling like you're doing something that gives you a good feeling and a rewarding feeling, rather than, because we could all be sat, and there's so much anxiety in the world nowadays, we could all be sat feeling very anxious, very depressed, but the best way to drive through that, as most people talk about, is by being fit, going for runs. I don't do that because I'm a lazy sod. Or working through it, and working through it, but doing something that you really love. And we're very fortunate in our industry, the entertainment industry, to do something that we love, absolutely love. Very few people have the chance to say that, and we are very privileged to be able to do it. So, and Trump has been great to me, and I'm going to do him right now. I'm going to do him right now. So you, Steve, because there's a lot of talk that Sleepy Joe, who's a very bad person, by the way. He's a do-nothing Democrat. He's radical. He's on the left. He's a socialist. Very bad, very bad, very bad. He's not tremendous and not a fantastic person like me. But let me tell you, I have some big news. Big news. And I'm going to give you the exclusive, Steve, on your podcast. Steve Hewlett, this is for you. This is for you. That there's no way Sleepy Joe's getting into the White House because, as you know, Steve, I had coronavirus. You remember that? I had coronavirus.
Yes.
And COVID-19, and I had to go in the Walter Reed Hospital. Great doctors, tremendous doctors. They're very good doctors, and they do great things. And they had so many things they tried on me because I was the first. I was the first person to take Regeneron because, as you know, I had COVID-19, but it was the best, the most incredible test. When I had the test, nobody had seen a test like it. Nobody's seen a test like it. So, but the news now is my doctors have told me that I have contracted COVID-20. COVID-20. Now, no one's had COVID-20, but I've got the most incredible strain of COVID-20. Most incredible. Nobody knew. Nobody knew about COVID-20. It wasn't there until I got it, but I got COVID-20. And it's very bad. It's horrible. And it's sad. It's sad that I got it. But what they're saying, the doctors have told me that this is so contagious, Steve. So contagious. So infectious. And what I've got to do is I have to self-isolate in the White House for the next 4 years. 4 years. So I'm not going anywhere, Sleepy Joe. Sleepy Joe. I mean, they're saying that he could be in charge of the nuclear button, Steve. I won't let him take charge of a TV remote. He's a horrible person. Horrible. There you go.
Well, Mr. President, yes, yeah.
COVID-20.
Mr. President, you're always one step ahead. It's COVID-20. Well, thanks for that, Mike. That was genius. Eyes and teeth. That's one thing about you. It's topical, and it really gives you. I'll come back to this Trump genius idea that you've had, but it really gives you a creative process, doesn't it? To keep fresh every day. You must be writing, watching the news, and keeping up to date because people.
Always. That's the thing about whether it's Trump or Boris, whoever really. That, it's always good to find. I still like gags. I love good old common standard gags.
Yes.
But I love being able to put fresh stuff every time I go out to work. I like
Brilliant.
New lines, and that's what I try to do.
As an impressionist, it's not easy to come up with material all the time. You can do good impressions, and all of your impressions are fantastic, but the material has to be strong, and that's one thing that you give. Is the material is brilliant. It's just funny and refreshing as well.
And I do believe that Trump gave me a real big lift when he got in.
Yeah.
My wife Jill, this was in 2016. She was very poorly, very, very ill, and we discovered that she had Crohn's. Well, the doctors at Southampton General Hospital.
Right. Yeah.
And she was really, really poorly, and she ended up in hospital for 8 weeks, 3 days. Big operation, but during the time prior to, and she's fine now, by the way.
Good.
Really, really healthy. The doctors have done it, but she still takes drugs, which she has to do to keep the Crohn's disease at bay.
Yeah, my father-in-law's got it. Big bad Baz. Yeah, it's difficult. You can't control it.
Young people get it as well. A lot of very young.
It's surprising, isn't it, that young people do?
Yeah, we were shocked. I didn't really know much about Crohn's until Jill had it, but the thing that we had together was a lot of time, so I was at home sort of caring for her, if you like, and so I found a lot of time, found myself, she'd be dozing a lot, and so I'd go away and start practicing voices, and Trump was one of the new voices, so this was prior to him getting elected.
Timing.
Yeah, and so I was doing the Trump voice, practicing the Trump voice, and it is like, I always explain it as an impressionist. For me, I have a memory of voices, Steve, so in my mind, we first met, as you said, I think, before we started this about 16 years ago.
Yes.
Down at Jethro's, that was good. Yeah, Jethro's Club, what a time that was. You were a very fresh-faced young man at the time, very fresh-faced, and you were very good. I remember having a very good chat, yeah. So we were down in Jethro.
Yeah.
And, that's right. So I have a memory of voices, so
okay.
I can hear your voice in my brain. Not now, because obviously I can hear it because you talk to me, but at any time I can recall your voice in my brain. So if I was going to do an impression of you, I would compare the tones coming out of my mouth of what my brain memory is. So, and I always use this example of Chris Tarrant, for instance.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to do, when I first started doing Chris Tarrant impression, I've got Chris Tarrant's voice in my brain. I go, so you can hear the tones. So I'm just going through the tones. It's almost like the scales music.
Sure, so that's how you get into it.
Yeah, so I'm going, see that? And then I went, that there computes within my brain. So I know that somewhere there is Chris Tarrant's voice. It's not correct yet, but I know that's the tone. So if I go, it's up to you. So C, still not right. So I know, but I'll now play with it. I'm getting nearer. Can you see? Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay. He does a lot. Okay, I'm getting nearer. Okay, it's up to you. It's worth £500,000. Getting this person right. It's worth £1 million. It's up to you. See what I mean?
Wow, that's brilliant.
That's a quick tutorial.
Yeah.
Of how I do my voices. So
sounds like one of those phone sex lines. I'm getting nearer. No, but the process.
It's incredible, really, isn't it? It's quite sort of spooky. And how do how do you find out that sort of that you have that talent? I have no idea.
When did you? No, when did you first do that? When did you first impersonate someone and think that really sounds like them? Do you remember the first one?
That was at school. I think because I've got 6 brothers, and
Yes.
it's a big family, and I realised very early on that if you could make your older brothers laugh while they were trying to punch you, they couldn't punch you so hard. It's like a drunk trying to punch you. It's the same thing. If somebody's in fits of laughter,
Yeah.
your older brother who's got the and he's trying to punch you, but you're doing, thank you very much. I found a horse the other day, and I found a horse today, 20 to 1. Came in at 4:30. So that's Tommy Cooper. That probably was my very first impression.
Okay,
so
brilliant.
I'll be doing Tommy Cooper. Thank you, Tommy. You saved me from some severe beating as a kid. But so I'll be doing Tommy Cooper gags and Frank Spencer. I don't know what to say, but that was my early.
So it got you out of trouble, really, in those instances. But one thing with you, Mike, as well, you don't have to say who you're doing, because I know. And that's what some impressionists do, have to tell the audience who they're doing.
There are caricature impressionists, I guess. And
yes.
I try as much as I can to be really accurate with the voice, which is what I've always done when I was on Copycats, the program with Bobby Davro and Alan Stewart, Hillary O'Neill, Aidan J. Harvey, Andrew O'Connor, brilliant, Mark Walker, brilliant impressionists. And the great thing about that show was that you were working. I was the new kid on the block, so I joined the Copycats team the same time as Hillary O'Neill, the lovely Hillary.
Okay, brilliant.
Hills is great, and so the two of us were joining a team that was established with people like Bobby Davro and Stewart and J. Harvey, really established performers at the time, household names.
Was Dave Evans on that show, Mike?
No, Dave, we sort of came in because I think it was Go For It or
Okay.
You Do or something prior to Copycats. So Dave and Johnny Moore did that series, and then it became Copycats, and that's when Hillary
I see.
and I joined the team. And you were joining a team with such great experience, great names who really looked after us, production, all sorts of things.
It was a great show of sketches, wasn't it? And top impressionists, just really good.
Yeah, it was great fun. We'd have 7 of us doing Quasimodo at the same time. It was just such fun. And Aidan J. Harvey is probably one of the funniest men I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
And whatever the sketch was, he could turn any sketch, rubbish, dreadful sketch, he could make it funny. He was a master.
Wow.
I love them all. Great experience, great times, happy days.
Yeah, great to work on a team where you're all doing a similar thing, but you're helping each other out as well and sharing scripts and stuff, which is...
Yeah, it doesn't happen that often, doesn't it? I mean,
no.
Showbiz can be a bit nasty at times with people, but we were always great. And I think, current times, we can't afford to be nasty. We need to help each other, help everyone.
Oh, contributional.
When you were doing Copycats in 1987, it was a big show of its time in that year. And that's the year that I got interested because New Faces was on, Jimmy Tamley won, and Joe Pasquale was on it. And I got hooked and I met Jimmy, and that's what got me started. But 1987 for me is a very prolific year. But for you, you also were in a #1 record for 3 weeks in the charts. And I saw this just yesterday, and it's brilliant.
You were doing your research, yeah. The dreadful Zeebrugge disaster.
Awful disaster, the ferry. I remember the disaster on the news.
Yeah.
But Paul McCartney got together and got Let It Be for Ferry Aid.
And at those times, we were Saturday night prime time, so we were the X Factor. We were the Strictly Come Dancing show on the Saturday night. And, I know that if you look back at the figures, one particular show I remember had 17 million views.
Wow.
Now, none of those shows, X Factor, Strictly, get anywhere near that. Now, I know there's lots of choice and things nowadays, and you could go back further and say, well, Morecambe and Wise got 25 million on a certain day,
Yeah, but late 80s, 17 million is good.
But it's still a heck of an achievement.
Oh, yeah.
So at that time, we were on telly. We were doing the Live from the Palladiums. We were doing the Des O'Connor shows, as well as doing the This Morning's. I think Lorraine was just a very young reporter when I did Good Morning Britain or whatever it was. So we were on telly, so people knew us. So, you know, getting a call to say, would you like to do this Ferry Aid song? And then there is an accompanying video, and you look at the names, the people on this, and there's me stood at the back, this sort of 6'2", very skinny, gawky impressionist alongside some superstars. So it was a great thrill. And yes, I do have a number one. And when I was working on the radio, I remember asking, you know, true or false, did I have a number one single? And so, yeah, it's a nice thing to have, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. I mean,
it's more about the fact that it raised a serious amount of money, so there's a bigger appeal, and that's more important.
Yeah, definitely. It was.
Or anything, you know, any kudos for me.
Yeah, people get together, don't they? I mean, it was like Band Aid in '85. 2 years later, Ferry Aid. We'll just mention a few of the names. There's Boy George, Paul King, Mark Knopfler, Nick Kershaw, Kim Wilde, Mel and Kim. Remember them? Edwin Starr. And you were standing alongside Rick Astley, Bucks Fizz, the Drifters. Yeah, it was fantastic. It's a great video. You can watch the video.
Although he wasn't there, don't forget Sir Paul McCartney.
Of course, Sir Paul McCartney, who must have produced...
He recorded his bit somewhere else, but I was still on the video with Sir Paul, so that was it.
Yeah. I mean, he's still going. He's just released a new album, so, you know, what a legend.
I know. Well, there's hope for me then to carry on.
So you were fourth of seven brothers, funniest of the pack, I guess. But you were born in Southampton. I lived up the road in Basingstoke.
I never knew that.
Yeah, Hampshire boys. That's what we are.
Were you born in Basingstoke?
Born in Basingstoke. I was there until I was, I guess, 23, and then I moved to Eastbourne, which is where I am now.
Yeah, well, I had no idea. I'm sorry about that. I had no idea we were Hampshire boys together.
Hampshire Hogs, aren't we? We're Hampshire Hogs.
Hampshire Hogs, Hampshire Hog boys. Hampshire Hog.
Yeah. So, I mean, Southampton and football, was that a big highlight in your home with six brothers?
Oh, massive. Because we didn't have much. 7 boys, we didn't have much at all. And, but we had happiness, you know. We had a great family life.
Nice.
And, lived born on a council estate. And I'm not gonna, you know, I don't want any sympathy because I had a great childhood.
Yeah, me too. Exactly the same.
You know, I've been to the old Dell as it was in them days when even my mum was at the ground. So that was the 7 boys, my dad and my mum. You know, and when I say even my mum, please don't think that's me being sexist.
No.
What I mean is, in them days, my mum, not only did she go to work, she also looked after the 7 boys because, you know, in them days, my dad was working, you know, he'd come home from work, have a bit of dinner, and then go back and do another shift, you know.
Wow, yeah.
They had 7 kids, and they had to have enough money to raise them. So if Dad was doing that, Mum was doing her little cleaning jobs or whatever, and she was then washing, cooking, doing everything. Mum and Dad both worked as a team to keep us 7 kids going, you know, and what that meant was, so my point coming back to, so Mum had a bit of time, which was great news, that she was able to go to the bloody football.
Yeah.
So football's been massive to us, and I've been really lucky in my job. You know, my first impression was Lonnie McManamy.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and Bawley, Alan Ball, God bless him, and Keely and Jimmy and Mandy, Alan's kids, still say to me, make sure you keep doing our dad. Because they said, as long as you keep doing our dad, people remember his voice and remember him when you do him. So here's a Bawley, because I love Bawley. No, I remember when I was manager at Southampton Football Club. I remember I was on the touchline, and I was watching the game, and I was shouting to Matt Lattis, said, Matty, get yourself warmed up. I'm bringing you off soon. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Football was huge huge in our house. And then, of course, I had a nightclub with Matthew Letizia,
Yes.
which cost us
Blimey.
both a huge amount of money. We didn't make anything. We lost a fortune. And my mum said to me one day, Michael, I had a lovely steak dinner in your club. And I'm thinking, Mum, do you know how much that cost me?
Wow.
In the end?
Yeah.
But hey, you got to do these things, or I thought you did. And I think Sugar, or somebody says, Lord Sugar, talks about entrepreneurial spirit. You'll never be an entrepreneur unless you try things. Matt and I tried it. It didn't work, but we had a great time.
Yeah, that's the thing, you put so much into the business, and it shows a passion for the work that you love to do, and not just going on stage entertaining. But I've done the same. I've spent putting shows on, and I've not got that back, but I loved it. I don't regret it because it's something that I believed in at the time.
You're so right, Steve. You know, because we're creative people, you create an act, and you go on stage, and so you think, I'm going to create a show, exactly what you said. I'm going to create a show, and if I'm going to create a show, I need to spend this amount of money. And because you've got standards, very high standards, you think, I'm going to spend this much money and that much. And in the end, if you don't get the rewards that you deserve, but, what can you do? Because it's just in our DNA that we want to go and create something. Whether it's an act, whether it's a business, whether it's a company. We have a go, and I don't think anyone should be criticised for having a go.
No, definitely.
You got to try it.
Yeah,
you might be right. I'm still waiting for that moment.
I know. I've done it 2 or 3 times. But my big one really was 2016, bringing Ron Lucas, the American ventriloquist, over to do 2 shows, and we done Eastbourne and Basingstoke. He was my hero when I started, and I funded the shows. We made back some of the money. I paid him what he needed. So for me, it was a success. It didn't sell out, but in our minds.
Stand you in good stead, Steve, going forward.
Yeah.
Learn by mistakes and things that you maybe got wrong, but it'll stand you in good stead.
Now, Mike, you're an ambassador of the British Forces Foundation and vice chairman of the Falklands Veterans Foundation. It's very close to your heart.
I think I'm a trustee of the Falklands Foundation.
You're a trustee?
I think I am. I think I'm a trustee or something. Yeah, I'm very proud of that. Very proud of that. I guess it's it is one of the nicest things that I've ever done, really, being involved in that, because I'm ex-Royal Navy, so I always say that I'm a propper. I'm there because I'm an ex-serviceman. I've been in the Royal Navy. I've been at the sharp end, although March the 29th, 1982, the Argentinians invaded the Falklands, and 2 days later I left the Royal Navy, which is true. So to be involved with the 2 charities, I'm really, really proud of that. And particularly the Falklands Veterans, because we raised the money which paid for Liberty Lodge, which is in Port Stanley.
Oh, incredible.
And Liberty Lodge is a place where the veterans from the Falklands conflict and families of those that didn't come back can go and stay at Liberty Lodge free of charge. We ask for a donation, but don't ask them, they can donate whatever they want.
Yes.
And we organise assisted flights by the RAF, so not the full fare flights. And, so I'm really proud of that, the fact that they can go there, get a bit of closure, go to the battlegrounds and try and get a bit of peace. And it gives me a real warm glow to have been a part of that, and I still am. And the incredible thing is that during the COVID pandemic, Liberty Lodge was used by the Falkland Hospital, so people who didn't have coronavirus but needed sort of recuperation.
Still needed
time,
care,
used Liberty Lodge. So, so who knew when we were doing this that it would be a really important part of Falkland Islands life during the pandemic?
Wow. I mean, it's very close to your heart because of the history you've had with the Royal Navy. And so it's something that Jim Davidson feels strongly about as well, supporting the troops to this day, isn't it? And it's important to do that.
And do you know what? Jim did it when it wasn't fashionable. There was a time when the troops were not popular, when, the public weren't that keen on our troops. And I tell you when it was before the Iraq War, before Afghanistan. It was sort of in between Falklands and Iraq wars that the forces weren't very, I don't know, I have no idea why, but Jim Davidson was still there raising money for them. Jim Davidson was still there flying the flag.
Yeah.
And then suddenly we had the Iraq War, the Gulf War, and we're seeing almost 24/7 coverage. We're seeing, the boys and girls coming home in those coffins,
It's just repetition, isn't it? It's awful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it made, so it put it right in the public's psyche. And so lots of very fashionable, trendy entertainers started supporting our troops. But I don't think Jim has ever had the recognition that he deserves because he was there at the sharp end.
At the beginning, yeah. It's very important to highlight that as well, to stand by the troops and look after our boys. And it's so good, and it's good of you to do what you're doing as well with Liberty Lodge. So well done, buddy.
And I'm very proud. D1654468.
Oh, bless you! Never leaves you now. Those numbers.
No.
Are they your lottery numbers?
It's actually co-op number. That Morgan would say.
Mike, I remember seeing you on the Des O'Connor show, particularly because I was a young ventriloquist. You came on with a Frank Bruno dummy, and it had me in stitches. I remember being a teenager.
You couldn't get away with that now, and rightly so, to be fair. Rightly so. But I had the Frank Bruno, I had the Desert Orchid horse's head.
Yes.
And I could never do ventriloquist.
Well, I can't do impressions, so. I mean, I was on Britain's Got Talent with a Simon.
You got a Boris doll or that?
I've just got a Boris doll. I've done some silly stuff on there. First to put my hands up, I can't do the voice. It's caricature. And Simon Cowell couldn't do the voice. It was just such a funny sketch. You were doing the Frank Bruno dummy.
You know what I mean, Harry?
Because you didn't even try not to move your lips. Yeah.
It would be David Coleman interviewing Frank at ringside because David Coleman, he was an absolute legend of sport commentary. So, Frank, is that right that you've got a detached retina? Yeah, we have now, Harry, but we used to live in the council house. I mean, in them days, it was great because there were so many. Boxing was huge. It still is now, but people like you, man, boxing.
They give you comedy gold, don't they?
So many great characters, so many great voices to do. I loved it.
Yeah, it was genius. You done your vent sketch. It was like a Sandy Powell cod vent, wasn't it? It was just brilliant, and people would just laugh because the routine was funny. Des O'Connor couldn't stop laughing. It's a beautiful.
It was brilliant.
Yeah,
he was so great. People my era, so Bradley Walsh, Squeaky, Joe Pasquale.
Yeah, he championed you all, didn't he?
Yeah, all of that. We were all growing up together. We're all the same age. And my biggest thrill is that if you talk to Bradley Walsh, Brad and I did a talent show. You talk about New Faces and then Britain's Got Talent.
Yeah.
But Brad and I both started on a talent show called The Fame Game.
Okay.
And Stan Baldwin used to come on with a hook. If you were going badly, he used to hook you off. But Bradley was behind me in the rehearsal, and I went in for my audition, and I was doing dirty down. I don't want to talk about it, all right? So I want to talk about it, all right? Only fools and horses. All right, Rodney. I do not believe it. I don't believe you, Del. I do not believe it. Hello, Del boy. All right, dude. I was doing all these voices, and Brad was going in doing like Norman Wisdom and stuff like that. And Brad said to me, he said, that day I gave up doing impressions, he said, because I knew I couldn't live for someone like you. Mind you, I'd swap careers in a minute. Thank you very much. And Brad well doing impressions. Great entertainer. And probably my favourite comedian ever, Bradley Walsh. And not enough people realise there'll be people now that have no idea that Brad's a comic.
No, but it's such a beautiful delivery he had, doesn't he? Really great delivery.
It just took you on a journey, and but it was the most chaotic, crazy journey that you've ever seen in your life. He'd be talking about something here, and then suddenly he's gone 90 degrees to something totally different, and then another 60-degree turn, and do this for an hour, and then suddenly he connects all the turns, and you're back to where we were. And it is just masterful to watch him.
Wow. It very much sounds like Ross Noble, who does that sort of thing in his live shows, with the improvisation and going off the piece, and coming back again. But he was a storyteller, isn't he? Bradley Walsh is a storyteller. He doesn't do gags, does he, per se? It's mainly storytelling.
He's not a gag teller. He'll do the odd gag that he'll throw in, but very rare. Absolutely love him. Yeah. Love him and love his family. It's a great story about Trump. When I did my first video for Trump the year when he got inaugurated in 2017, in January, I think it was, we rushed to get... So when I realised I could do the Trump thing, because as I was saying, that Impressionists know what they look like, so I don't need a mirror to know that I look like Donald Trump.
Okay.
I can see in my mind's eye that, wow. So then I went to Shepherd and Wiggs, lovely people there. They made the Trump wig, and you had to get that right. It was really expensive, but worth every single penny.
Yeah.
Then I got the suit, the right colour, the American badges. My neighbour made me the extra long red tie and a blue tie, and then I got a fat suit made, and then I got the American Stars and Stripes. So suddenly I had everything I needed to do the Donald Trump, and so I just had that opportunity then to do the video. So we made the video because I had everything in place. Made this Trump video, sent it to Brad, and Brad went, "Oh, don't do nothing. Don't do nothing with that. I'll call you tomorrow." This is about 1 o'clock in the morning. So he loved it. He sent it to his people that he knew at ITV. And I ended up doing the Palladium show and stuff like that. But my point was...
Brilliant.
So Brad had got the video that I sent him and then put it on the TV with Barney at home. So they were sat in his house watching it on the big screen, and he said that, "Here, Barn, have a look at this." And then Donna came. So there's me as Trump on screen. Donna came in and said, "I'll turn that off. I can't stand that bloke."
She didn't mean Mike.
That's a pretty good review testament.
Yeah.
Brad killed himself. He went, because they all called me Oz. He went, "That's Oz. That's Oz. What are you talking about? Can't stand that's Oz." She thought it was Donald Trump, but it was really, because I've known Brad and Donna for years at party and stuff.
Yeah.
So great that Donna thought it really was.
That's brilliant. But the likeness of what you do, you really go the whole hog, don't you, with it? With the
full makeup and also the shading where he's got crow's feet around his eyes. He's got bags under his eyes. He's got a line coming down from his sideboard, wings into his... Yeah, so I've studied not only of that, I've learned how to do makeup.
The walk.
I've learned about, all sorts of things, but I've had a whale of a time.
I was really gutted, Mike, when I wasn't gutted because I had a great time in America with Jimmy. The time you done the Water Rats ball, it was such a great ball. Like Paul Merton was there. You were doing Donald Trump, and I was saying to my brother, "Please film it. I can't miss Mike doing this." And he sent me a little clip of you walking in, but you had the entourage. You walk in,
that's it. And that's the thing about it. Trump is so famous.
Yeah.
And so as soon as they see that blonde hair and the orange tan, you can't hide away as Donald Trump. I could be in a taxi. We did some filming in London a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And I'm sat in a taxi and people are seeing me from like 50 yards away. And I'm just sat in there. I'm not sat with my head next to the window. And I'm getting, oi, Donald. You get the old one or two that are not so keen on him. But you can't hide away. And so coming down those stairs, I think it was the Grosvenor, the Water Rats. And it was one of the first real big events that I'd done as Trump. And Eamon Holmes and Ruth were hosting the event, and so I was sat quite near to Ruth, and there's a picture of her where she's actually pretty stern while I'm on, but it's always the one they use. But there are lots of pictures where she was roaring, and And, it was a real special night, that. And I will be very grateful to the Water Rats for allowing me to do it. So, because it was one of the first really big events that I did, doing the Trump act. And like you, it's developed so much. And I love it, because I still do all the other impressions. Well, I say that, I'm the greatest impressionist in the world. There's no one better. No one better than me. Who knew? Think about that. I am the best impressionist in the world. I prove it. And I just say to them, just shout out any impression, any voice that you want.
Oh, that's clever. That extends the material.
Somebody shouts George Clooney, and I go, Michael McIntyre, I'm so excited to be here. So it doesn't matter who they ask for. I'm just doing the voices that I want to do. But they laugh at it every single time.
That just gives you creative license to go anywhere, doesn't it? And I saw a clip of you on Michael McIntyre, doing Michael McIntyre, and you do the send to all and actually send the text messages as well, which is just non-stop material, isn't it? It just can go anywhere.
Yeah, we did that with Laurie McMenemy, funny enough.
Yeah.
We did a bit earlier. At the Mayflower Theatre. That was my own show. That was great fun. And we got, so, and because Laurie was a big sales manager, and I said, I'm going to send a text, Laurie. I've got your phone. So I got Laurie's phone. I'm going to send to all, just to let you know that I have a new job. I have now become director of football at Portsmouth Football Club. What do you think? So, because of the rivalry between Southampton and Portsmouth, the crowd, loved that. We were in Southampton. So I sent it to all, and then, of course, he's getting messages from Mick Shannon, from Sir Alex Ferguson, and all sorts of people saying, what the hell are you doing? So, great fun. Good fun.
Oh, it's perfect, mate. I loved watching that. I watched a lot of your clips yesterday. It's genius. And the fact that you can go anywhere, and as an impressionist, Trump has given you that freedom just to do,
Yeah, as well, Steve, it gave me a bit of a lift at that time, because it's given me it put me back in not the limelight, but people were starting to think and talk about me, because I understand there's only the career can only be so long unless you're really, really lucky and stuff, in terms of TV career, because we can always work, and that's the thing. Most performers work until they decide to stop. It's not TV that stops you working, because you can work, it doesn't matter. But having the TV helps with that exposure, gives you the opportunity to work in, bigger venues and stuff. And so I was at a bit of a crossroads, and so Donald Trump was really good for me. Donald Trump really helped me, because it put me back, out there, and having nice things, people saying nice things about you, that feeling, because we're all a bit insecure. We all love people saying nice things about us, as entertainers.
Yeah.
They don't always do that, but hey, what can you do?
No, it's always about mileage as well, isn't it? I mean, Trump can go on and on, but when I done the Simon Cowell puppet on Britain's Got Talent, I wrote that piece for BGT, so I wasn't planning to do Simon after the show, but then I was booked based on that, and I had to put him on the poster. I'd done a UK tour, but people were asking for it like 2 years later, and I said, well, he's not in the show anymore. I wrote him out of the show, and then I had to put him back in for another tour, but now he's in a museum in Blackpool, which is going to open in 2 years from now. But it is about material and the characters that you choose. How far can you go with them? The longevity of a routine. But you can keep creating, because Trump's in the news every day. You're on to a winner, always.
I hope so, and I think so. But then, of course, we have Mr. Boris Johnson. I do.
You do him as well, yeah.
I'm to see, actually, Steve, very good. To have you, to be talking to you on this fantastic podcast. Fantastic. I mean, Boris is another great. He's come down for me, and of course I've done the whole thing again. I went to Shepperton Wigs, I got the Boris hair.
Wow, Shepperton are loving you.
and so it's like, so you can either book me as Trump or you can book me as Boris. So we can do whatever you want. Absolutely fantastic. And let me tell you this, Steve, because I heard you had Donald Trump earlier on this show, and I have to say that they're still saying
That's brilliant. I mean, you can do Boris, but with a Donald Trump dummy, couldn't you? But you could also do.
Well, I've got the Donald Trump. I'm really lucky. I've got Donald Trump doll. I've got the Kim Jong Un dolls. Steve Axtell, which you'll know Steve Axtell.
Yes.
He made the puppets. The man is a genius. And so Trump, I think Trump was their best seller straight after when he won the election.
Yeah, he sold loads.
I phoned him up. I said, "Can you make me a Kim Jong Un one?" It's brilliant. Yeah, listen, I can't do ventriloquism like you said. You can't do impressions.
Yeah.
So I just use them as throwaways. So Donald Trump, the puppet, will do Boris.
Oh, but it's brilliant material.
Donald Trump. So it'd be me as Donald Trump. No, it'd be me as me.
Yes.
Donald Trump puppet. See, I'm doing that. I'm doing this now.
It's confusing, isn't it?
I haven't even got a puppet. And nobody can see this.
Ventriloquism on the radio again.
Trump talking, and then suddenly, third. What are we going to do? So same thing, you know. It's just so much fun and so much creative license that we have.
Ho, 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 ho.
Mike, you've done a lot of radio, haven't you? So, I mean, this could be. Are you thinking about writing like a show around this? Because you can do all the voices that you could do around the material that you're writing.
No. But watch this space. Funny enough, you talk about radio. I can't reveal too much because it's totally top secret. But in March of next year, there will be a big announcement, and I'm really excited about it. That's all I can say.
Oh, brilliant. Looking forward to that.
We're actively working on what's going to happen in March right now. But I had a great time at radio, 6.5 years at Capital Radio in London. Came out of the blue. I was speaking at a boxing dinner at the Hilton on Park Lane. Richard Park, who was the boss, who was one of the judges.
Yes.
What was that term competition?
It was Fame Academy.
Fame Academy, that's it. So Richard was like the headmaster of the Fame Academy.
Yes.
And to be fair, he was probably the most powerful man at radio at that time. He saw me speaking at this dinner. I got a call out of the blue. I didn't know who he was. He was talking to me about radio in London. I phoned my manager at the time, Jill Shirley, and said, "I just had this call from this bloke called Richard Park." She went, "Richard Park." She knew all about him. I had no idea who he was. And I was quite sort of blasé about when he was asking me, do you want to come to London, do a bit? No, I not really thought about it. And then, of course, it happened, and it was, again, one of the luckiest things and one of the greatest things I've ever done. It was just so great to be in contact with, if we always knew if we were getting it right by the phone lines.
Yeah.
We had a board with all the lights.
Okay,
flashing.
yeah.
And if you filled that up, if you knew that you were onto the subject, you knew what London was talking about. If you got it right, the phone lines would light up, and it was all fun. It was all comedy with music. So had a great time, and did some crazy things. We went to the World Cup in Saint-Étienne in France in a Learjet.
Oh, nice.
I was dressed as St. George, and my three brothers were dressed as the Three Lions. But it was a big publicity thing that we did, to do this. And so we had some incredible memories.
Some great budgets you had on that job then, just flying.
No, this was a stunt. This was we were giving away World Cup tickets to go and see the World Cup.
Okay.
Vauxhall were the sponsors.
Yes.
And I remember saying one day on air, I said, "Wouldn't it be nice if we could go? I'd love to go." I said, "So I'm going to phone Mr. Vauxhall, whoever he is that gives these tickets, and say, how about we go and do a live show there?" So we phoned Mr. Vauxhall, whoever Mr. Vauxhall was, and he said, "Yes, we'll give you 4 tickets, but there's a challenge. I want you to go as the Three Lions and St. George." Right? So I dressed as St. George. So suddenly we're going, how are we going to do that? So we put out an appeal. Does anyone know where we can get some lion costumes? So we had no budget. Anyone know where we can get St. George's costume? Anyone know how we can get there? And people were phoning out, "I got a car." And then my boss said, "Yes, you can go, but you got to be back the next morning to broadcast."
Wow.
So suddenly we knew we had to fly out on the day straight after doing our show to Saint-Étienne. And then we had to be back, otherwise we couldn't have the tickets. So the whole thing became this appeal. Somebody would phone that, so "I've got a trawler, I can get you there, but I won't get you back in time in the morning." Somebody said, "We got a lorry going down," but no, it was just no way was it going to work. But we had this huge response from our listeners doing everything. And we would.
Brilliant.
And then this guy phoned up, this really posh guy phoned up and said, I can take you. And we went, oh, yeah. Can you take us and get us back? He said, I'll take you there and get you back on the same day. And we're like, yeah, and how are you going to do that? And he said, I own a fleet of Lear jets out of Farnborough Airport. So now we're jumping up and down because this is me and my three brothers, real brothers, and we love football. So now we're suddenly thinking about the World Cup. And then he says, but I want a ticket. And we've only got 4. So now we've got to phone Mr. Vauxhall, who supplied the tickets for the competition.
Right, one more.
And Mr. Vauxhall, agrees to give us the ticket. So we flew out to St. Etienne as the Three Lions, as St. George. It was England, Argentina. It was the day that Beckham got sent off. It was Campbell's header.
Wow.
It was just the most incredible game, and we were mobbed by the world's press. And then we got back, and so we flew back to Heathrow, interestingly, because we couldn't fly into Farnborough that late at night.
Okay.
We got back to Heathrow on the same day. Same night, well, maybe just after midnight or whatever, and we took all the clothes off and put them in these black bin bags. So bear in mind, we just watched England go out of the World Cup. We're devastated, but we've had an amazing day.
What a day.
We're not wearing the costume. We walk out of Heathrow Terminal and get a cab, and the taxi driver looked at us, said, he'd obviously thought we'd flown in from somewhere else. He went, you won't notice, score them, boys. We just flown back from St. Etienne because we were back so fast, nobody would have been back before us.
Learjets,
so
no.
That was like an incredible experience that we had. My life's been full of great experiences, and I've been so lucky.
Just quickly, back in '96, I bought, it must have been a VHS back then, about 24 years ago. Very Naughty But Nice, your live stand-up show. That was brilliant. I hope we can still get it online. I'll spread that. But
I don't know.
It may be eBay.
Because that came from Capital Radio. Because when Richard Park saw me at this boxing dinner, and this is an interesting story, opening. Richard Park saw me and said he was sat next to Ray Stills, who was in charge of Warner Vision's video arm. And Richard said they sat there and after I spoke at this boxing dinner, Richard Park said, I'm going to get him on radio. I'm going to make him a star on Capital Radio. And Ray Stills said from Warner, if you do, I will make the video. And that's exactly what happened. I went on Capital Radio and we did the video for Warner Vision at the Mayflower, Southampton, Naughty But Nice, which is a copy of which you bought in a bargain bucket for about 30p once.
But it was a brilliant show, mate. And to do it in your hometown, to go back to Southampton and do it with your people is nice, isn't it?
I know, it
come
was
home.
Fantastic. We filled the theatre, big theatre, and to sort of go out. You know what it's like when you work on your home territory.
Yeah.
When people know you, that they're there waiting for you. They bought tickets to see you. There's nothing better in the world than doing that. I was always like, in the early days, support actor, Jim Davison, Cannonball, God bless Bobby, Abbott, whoever it was. I was there as like support act, Jimmy Tarbuck. And the people had paid to come and see those because they were top of the bill, and rightly so.
Yes.
But when you're doing a show like that and the people have paid to come and see you,
wow,
there's no feeling like it in the world, Steve.
No, there isn't. After BGT, I did get to fill out the Haymarket in Basingstoke for my first. I filmed my DVD there, and it is the best feeling ever.
It is, isn't it? Well
Mike,
done,
and to get good comments, we'll finish on this. Mike's impression of Chris Tarrant is the best impression I've ever witnessed. Sir Tim Rice. You've got accolades, you've got memories, and thank you for your talent and continuing talent. And I'm looking forward to hearing what this radio secret is. But your Donald Trump is still entertaining people out there. We love you for it.
Thank you so much. So good.
You're brilliant, Mike. Thank you.
Go and see Steve Hewlett. He's brilliant too. Not as good as me, of course. No one's better.
They'll have to come to my house because all the gigs are cancelled. But
exactly. Thank you, Steve. It's been a real pleasure. See you on the other side of the lockdown, eh?
Yes, buddy. Take care. Thank you for this, Mike.
Thanks, Steve.
Eyes and Teeth. Thank you so much to Mike Osman. I couldn't stop laughing through most of that interview. If you want to see more of Mike, you can check him out on his website, donaldtrump.tv. You can book him on info@donaldtrump.tv, or you could tweet him on Twitter @donaldtrumptv. Today's comedy quote comes from George Carling. Don't sweat the petty things, and don't pet the sweaty things. Thank you, George. Eyes and Teeth is written, produced and hosted by Steve Hewlett. Vocals by Nina, Lola and Larissa Hewlett. Additional vocals by Rich T. Thank you to Kevin Dean, who produces and performs the Eyes and Teeth theme tune and jingles. Listen in next time to the Christmas special 12 Days of Podcasts, Eyes and Tinsel, when I'll be speaking to another very special guest to be revealed in a couple of days.
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas!